Dear listener, again, the purpose of this show is to make you less reactive to the news. Think very, very seriously about who you're going to elect.
If you want to rattle a snake, you must be prepared to be bitten by it.
Did you really bring your mind to bear? Did you really focus and understand what you were doing? So that when you made the decision, you were convinced, whether wrong or right, you were convinced that you understood the situation.
And we don't want to get to that point where we have left the country to a few guys. This conversation is not for just us, it's for you to go and spread it out there.
Intolerance. We are brewing intolerance.
You will take it upon yourself to be in the know, one, to be involved, two, and if you're not being involved, to question why you're not being involved and find a way to get involved.
Democracy cannot operate unless we are tolerant. You tolerate your friend, your neighbor, to have an opinion different from yours.
Final episode, man. Final episode on that series. We are finally here, man.
Okay.
Umekata kufanya drum rolls. Ni sawa. Mungu akusamehe. But we're finally back, guys. We're finally doing the last episode on the 6-piece series covering the role of the president, and we're going to touch on the deputy president as well. You been good, though?
Yeah, been well.
Beyond that, we are
Glad
not going
to
to...
We're going to discuss
our producers are around our case na kujuliana hali. See, you know how they are always like...
Yeah, I know.
Mutajuliana hali
But I just
baadaye.
want to express my excitement about, discussing the most, I don't say the most significant, but the most important. It is the most important. Because if it fails from there, every other position fails.
For sure?
Yes.
I feel like now
yes.
the...
The country cannot run without a functional president or a functional presidency. And that office of presidency must be occupied by a sane
As far as I'm
president.
concerned, in my head, I feel like the amendment that would have been big in the constitution is just removing this role of the president, and the counties becoming the bosses.
ilikuwa inataka ku make president a ceremonial position.
Manze,
and then we'd have a prime minister being the head of government.
Na sijui deputies 7
na the deputies pia walikuwa wakwe wengi.
Assistants 14. Okay, sorry, exaggeration for effect.
I'm so glad it was declared unconstitutional, but story for another day.
Did they appeal it again?
Yes.
They noticed.
Yes. There's a plan to appeal at the Supreme Court. Actually, it's not even just a plan. It's already underway.
It's already
underway. Yes.
Yeah. As we are talking, huduma namba ilifanywa
declared unconstitutional. Another one of the national government decisions.
You know, this guy has a hall of fame for all the things that he has
disregarding court orders, unconstitutional decisions every single time. 2017 to 2021 has been characterized by everything is unconstitutional. Position of the chief administrative secretary, unconstitutional. I mean,
what kind of a president did we choose if he's
going
just to go against the
on Twitter,
constitution
people are
every
saying,
time?
what kind of attorney general do we have who's not giving good advice to the government?
So now we are changing the blame and putting it on the AG?
The chief legal advisor to the president is the attorney general.
I can advise you, but at the end of the day, you're the one to make the decision. So we don't know what happens in the back at the kitchen cabinet and whatever happens at the back of State House. But we know whoever comes out and speaks.
That is exactly why, another reason why I think we need a leader who is learned in... Anyway, let's
umesema jasoma wow.
No, amesoma. Huyu wetu amesoma. So anaelewa kwa tikisema kitu. Sasa mkiweka hapo mtu mwenye ana degree akisikia constitutional hata ile.
My goodness, you have pushed this agenda. I know this is affecting you, but we are not going to put it on
decision inaniuma sana. I hope.
But we are not going to put it on IEBC for sure. We are going to put it on the people
ourselves
to choose their leaders wisely. If he hasn't learned, if he hasn't gone to school, if he's not qualified, he's not qualified. We're not going to put the likes of other people that who decide to shift rivers and shift forests and say that rain comes from. I'm not going to get into that. But those are the kind of people that we chose, and we need to change the kind of leaders that we choose. This guy, for like a hall of fame of all the things that he has considered unconstitutional, it kind of tells you the leader that we have in office. Because even if the AG is the one to advise, the moment he notices that this thing has been based as unconstitutional and he needs to withdraw, he usually decides to beat up his chest.
Juzi situlisikia ati Kenya Meat Commission, the decision to put Kenya Meat Commission under KDF.
unconstitutional, and he still disregards them, and
Na si
still
bado launch ilifanywa hapo KDF ya
You
Kenya
know,
Meat Commission.
Okia Omtata will fight for us continuously, and eventually this guy will still come back and say, hey,
Yeah.
mi bado hakuna kitu mnaniambia. That's what I feel every time he does it. He was like, hakuna kitu mnani show, bado ndaifanya venye inafanywa, venye mtake msitake. So he rolled out this thing. It was declared unconstitutional. Immediately he goes to appeal. It's going to happen the same way. I'm not going to be the one predicting, but I'm just putting it out there. If it's unconstitutional, there's nothing that's going to be interpreted differently, because now the cabinet secretary for Matiang'i was like, we are going to appeal this thing because we feel like it was interpreted wrongly.
Okay, so let's get into now the position. It is in my opinion the most important position because it controls a lot of things that happen in the country. It's a position that has a say in terms of everything and everywhere in this country. Yes. Article 131 of the Constitution prescribes the authority of the president. It says that the president is the head of state and government. Yeah. And then the president exercises executive authority of the republic with the assistance of a deputy president and the cabinet secretary, so chief executive officer of this country. Then the president is also the commander-in-chief of the Kenya Defence Forces. The president is the chairperson of the National Security Council. And most importantly, the president is the symbol of national unity in Kenya. Then the main part of the authority now under Article 131 sub-Article 2, the president shall respect, uphold, and safeguard the Constitution. So I think even as I read this, dear listener, think about our president. Is he respecting, upholding, and safeguarding our Constitution? Unconstitutional everything. Kila kitu akisema ni unconstitutional. Think about it.
We have to think through this because he's going home. Is
he really going home? Mi niliona mtu akisema he's too young to go home. Mama uko unaona hiyo?
Can we talk about the next leader that will come, and we need to focus on the next leader that we are going to choose? Yes,
but we also need to learn from our mistakes. Where did we go wrong? If at all we consider this a mistake.
All right.
And then the president shall safeguard the sovereignty of the republic. I think to that extent he does that. Even with regard to the recent issue, the ICJ issue, the maritime dispute between Kenya and Somalia.
Yes.
He refuses to cede to the decision of the ICJ. I don't want to get into that there's a lot of politics and of course international law involved in that. But his refusal, his statement regarding the fact that we shall protect Kenya's territory, that is just one of the ways in which he's safeguarding the sovereignty and the territory of the republic. So hapo amefanya tu vizuri sana. Next, promote and enhance unity of the nation. We can talk about that. Then there's promote respect for diversity.
Why the long pause in promoting peace?
Promoting and enhancing the unity of the nation.
Yeah.
Well, I think as a country we are united already. So hakuna kazi mingi ya kufanya hapo. He does not sijaona akifanya watu wakosani. Actually what he's been doing, especially with the handshake agenda, is to bring Kenyans together, even in terms of politics. But that's just my opinion. You're allowed to contradict.
For sure.
And then promoting respect for the diversity of the people and communities in Kenya. That's tricky also. There's a time there was a complaint about Ministry of Transport. It had only appointed people from one community into the board. Ilikuwa story.
Yeah.
So anyway, he's in charge of promoting diversity of the communities and then ensuring protection of human rights and fundamental freedoms and the rule of law. Human rights, again, I can't say that our president has done much there, but I must say this, I was really pleased when he actually spoke about the Kianjokoma brothers issue, that Kenyans were all over disappointed in the police force about the unfair killing, extrajudicial killing of the Kianjokoma brothers that could not even be explained. And, it was all over the media. And I'm so glad it got to the ears of our president and he actually addressed the police, I think the IG, to investigate that issue.
Yeah.
So that extent he's trying, yeah? That's protection of human rights, fundamental freedoms, and the rule of law. Then it says that the president shall not hold any other state or public office. that is it with the authority. Then Article 132 prescribes the functions.
The functions now.
Yes.
Yeah. There's something you posed at some point, and it was funny for me when he talked about the unity of the nation. And I remembered some of the things that have been causing a lot of rift is some of those things that he has tried to push for saying that they actually bring that unity. And eventually they have really
Kama gani?
tuseme BBI ilikuwa inafaa kuleta unity but tumeona
BBI court ilisema hiyo ilikuwa presidency haikuwa ya the people
and then all of a sudden tuliona the big rift that was there at that time. And that was interesting for me, and I know for sure people torn between that idea of unity, but we can definitely say that we've seen a sense of peace in the nation for the period that has been there. But this whole turmoil that starts immediately when election period starts kicking in is a conversation that we need to have on the side.
And it's kicking in next year too.
Yeah, and we really need to rethink how we go about things at that time.
Let's just take a break for a minute.
All right, and then we'll come back with the functions of the president.
Subscribe to this and other shows on aqute.co.ke. You can also find us on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and other online podcast platforms.
Welcome back. We are on the functions of the president. There are quite a few. Let's just list them down. I think they have quite a lot of details into it, but we are not going to get into all those details that they have. I think he's going to address the opening of each newly elected parliament, address a special sitting of parliament once every year, and he may address it at any other time. I'm gonna skip the rest and go to he shall nominate and with the approval of the National Assembly appoint and may dismiss quite a list of people. And we've seen this happening several times where cabinet secretaries, the attorney general, the secretary to the cabinet, principal secretaries, consular representatives being ambassadors and high commissioners, and in accordance with this constitution, any other state or public officer whom this constitution requires or empowers the president to appoint. Now that's where we see all these independent bodies where he keeps choosing from the law society. Wanaitangwaje, nimesahau jina yao.
See, it depends. Usually a committee is constituted.
Yes.
Even from JSC had to appoint, the Chief Justice. IBC, recently we've had the IBC commissioners.
Yes.
Again, it also had to go through him.
It's good to note that there's also approval of the National Assembly.
So do you see what I mean when I say the president is all over?
He's all over for sure. He's okay. Let's move on. He shall chair cabinet meetings, direct, coordinate functions of ministries, by a decision published in the Gazette, assigned responsibility for the implementation and administration of any act of parliament to a cabinet secretary to the extent not inconsistent with any act of parliament. The president may perform any other executive function provided for in this constitution or in national legislation and except as otherwise provided in this constitution. I think this is where we see every time when he uses these executive orders and declares some state of emergencies in different places, such kind of stuff. He's received foreign diplomatic and consular representatives. Sasa yeye anareceiviwa na Biden akikuja atamreceive. And but
na kama receive anatuma mtu
na siku hizi atumi deputy, anatuma Matiang'i.
Anatuma Matiang'i. By the way, come to think of it, anatuma Matiang'i ama atatuma Omamo.
Yeah, ama Omamo. He may confer honors in the name of the people and the republic.
Head of state commendation.
There's a whole president's award scheme that happens where commendation.
Head of state commendation.
Yes, that happens. The people who actually work through all these acts of service in the community, and they are honored by the president, and there are those he nominates himself. That's a whole website in itself. People can actually check it out. The President Awards Scheme.
Okay. It was a club when I was in high school.
It's actually a whole program. It's just not that's a different story. He's subject to Article 58. He may declare a state of emergency, and with the approval of Parliament,
declare war.
And
didn't he recently declare Kenya is in a state of famine? What was it? Alisema nini? The most recent declaration. not more than 2 months ago.
It has to be famous
Was it
because
drought?
yeah,
Ilikuwa Kenya, we were facing drought. It's
Yes.
declared drought a national disaster.
a national disaster.
Bas, that
Yes.
is it.
And then finally, he shall ensure that the international obligations of the Republic are fulfilled through the actions of the relevant cabinet secretaries.
Yeah.
Quite a few things he has to go about.
But that's not it. He also has power of mercy, you know. And by the way, did you see that recently, when he was at New York, he went to New York recently, because Kenya sits in the Security Council.
Yes,
Thank God for
International
that.
Security Council.
So when it's time for Kenya to chair Security Council, he had to be the first person to chair Security Council. He traveled to New York to chair Security Council.
It's pretty dope.
I was happy. You know, that was Kenya literally chairing. I think I'm always explaining this concept of extraterritoriality. Ukiona president anatembea in another country, that's Kenya working in another country. And so he was seated there, written Kenya, at the Security Council.
A bit of strides that we've made.
Yeah.
Look, let's get into the nitty-gritty. 2 questions and then we are done.
Uh-huh.
Who do you think I should look for in a president?
In a president?
Yes.
I think you've seen these functions are different. They cut across different sectors. These functions affect the person, the highest Kenyan all the way to the lowest Kenyan at the village, at that remote village. So we need a person who's very, very competent to handle all these functions. For me, I think it's because I'm a lawyer. For me, I just need a guardian of the constitution and the rule of law. That's very important. You have to set an example for the others. If the president is disregarding court orders, then I should also disregard court orders. Shida ni, if I disregard as a common mwananchi, they will come after me, but they will not go after him. But for me, that's really the most important. And again, for me, because I love international law and all that, let's keep going for those international positions. Under him, we've seen Amina even trying to clinch WTO. We saw Amina even trying to clinch the position of the chairperson of the AU, just to put Kenya somewhere on the map of the world. We are somewhere.
We're pretty much
right
doing
now.
much.
If a country needs something in Security Council, like Kenya, an African country, we are the African Union representative to the Security Council.
Don't forget what we're still
we are
doing with the
somewhere.
EAC.
The East African community.
Yes. We've made quite a lot of strides.
Yes, actually, I think currently the presidency also, the summit, the summit is now the summit brings together the presidents of all countries. I think the current chairperson of the summit is also our president. So we are somewhere.
Definitely.
And I'm
doing
really,
something.
really happy, really proud to be Kenyan.
Yeah. Definitely. 100% we've seen that he's done. There's that whole thing on the back that we haven't. The elephant in the room is umse ameonekana ni mse wa madeni.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Kumbuka akiomba hiyo deni, si ati ni Uhuru ameomba deni, ni Kenya imeomba deni.
And that's
na
what
Kenya italipa hiyo deni. Na ni sisi tutalipa hiyo deni.
Usio Uhuru wa madeni, ni sisi tutaumia. Ni Kenya iko na madeni.
Yeah.
And people don't understand
that.
But
I think also from there we learn we need a president who also listens to us. So tukicomplain, pana, please don't go and borrow money in France and relax. Okay, Kenyans, I'm sorry.
Under the same process, yeah. I think he's done quite a good job when it comes to international matters and the whole networking process that he's done with other nations. It's been bilateral trades have become pretty good.
Yeah.
And people,
even our relations with neighboring countries and even foreign countries, overseas countries.
But definitely kuna places zenye tuna fail.
We were the first Africans to be welcomed into the White House.
Good
Do
people,
you
you need to see the kind of shadow mados being done in this studio. Yani, what is happening, yani? It's become a whole bragging process at this point, but we are trying to get people to choose the right leader.
Yeah, but dear listener, by the way, from me, as you choose your leader next time, please just choose a leader who's adherent to Article 10 of the Constitution, the national values and principles of governance. A president who promotes human rights and a president who guards the Constitution and the rule of law. That is the most important for me. Most important.
What have I left out in this process? I am trying to remember. There's something that
what we may have left out is we have not really discussed deputy president, but perhaps you can do that in another episode.
My goodness.
That can just be a 10-minute episode.
Oh my goodness. But you know the deputy is definitely doing the same thing.
Deputizing the president.
It's just deputizing the president. Mbona sahi watu wakiwa America sio yeye president?
Yo sasa ni sielewi, because I'd expect to see our deputy president at the forefront right now when our president is in New York. But hatuoni, and
you know something we need to factor in when we're choosing our next leader? they can agree to disagree and still work together with the deputy.
Yes, that's very important. That's one of the lessons we should learn now from the 2017 decision.
Exactly. That there's space for disagreement.
Wakikosana, which is normal.
Which is very normal.
You know, human beings ukosana, but still they should be able to work together and they should be able to show us that they can be united. By the way, when watu wanakosana kwa bedroom, you don't need to bring it out.
Lakini ni Kanairo. Unajua wanafanya kazi Kanairo.
Nairobi.
Yani watu you get together na watu wanakuambia mtaachana tu.
Yeah, but article 147
until the national level. 147
says the deputy shall be the principal assistant of the president and shall deputize for the president in execution of the president's functions. So easy, if there's a bill in parliament that needs to be passed, maybe you can sign it.
We definitely will focus on that one at some point. I think the biggest role, you know, and that's what I was telling you just before we even started the episode. I feel like Kenyans understand really what they need in a president, but we've seen from the previous episodes that we've done, there was a need for us to break down a lot more what's happening in the county level, so that they don't put blame on the president for everything. They need to hold themselves accountable, and that's why probably we are struggling here trying to figure out what can we really add in terms of choosing a president, when it comes to his impeachment, when it comes to all these factors that we can put at a president. We always focus from our media, from the conversations on the streets, they always focus on the president and the deputy, but they never focus on the other leaders who should be the ones who...
Governor. I think governor also gets some importance.
You know, governors...
But now MCA, people, again, tukianza hii story, simi nilikwambia sijui MCA wangu.
Governors get importance wakislapiwa. I'm kidding. But you get the idea behind it, because people really understand. And it was important for us to start with the previous positions, so that by the time we get to the president and the deputy, people can understand, we've been blaming this guy for a lot of things, and yet we need to blame the person who's just next to me, because he should have been the one doing this business. And that's why it's easier for me to find this episode a bit more shorter than the others, because listeners, you know the roles of the president. You've been here with the president for a while. This is the biggest conversation that we have. Every time he does something, and we put even spot checks on him for 100 days, a year. You know, we always have a checklist for the president, but we've never had a checklist for these other leaders that follow down the table. And it's not really down the table, but you get the idea that I'm trying to say. And so it's important as you go through this whole process, look at who you are choosing, because eventually they can also be influenced by the person at the top, because you said it clearly, if the top is not working, these other functions will have a hard time and they will struggle definitely. And so I think for me, the biggest role that I would say in terms of the leader, you've put it out there clearly. Number one, he has to focus on what he's doing for the people here locally, and also the kind of relations that he has internationally. And then number two, he has to really safeguard the rule of law and not really think that he can thump his chest. We are not in eras of 97 to 2002. We are past that time. We need to focus on someone who will safeguard the constitution, and if it needs a conversation on where amendments need to be done to the constitution to help the people at large and not individuals, then he can step in and champion for these things to help and support the people. That's what I think about when it comes to a president and the deputy.
For me, now that we are coming to the conclusion of this series, the six-piece suit series. My advice to our listeners would be, now that we have broken this down, kindly, first of all, share the knowledge with other people. Just you never know how you may impact a whole community by just sharing this information with other people. But also, because we are calling it six-piece, but they say lazima vote six-piece. You don't have to. Vote for individuals.
Vote suti kama nani.
Vote for individuals. For president, I want so and so for this reason and another. For this one, maybe I want an independent candidate. Not because he's independent, but because he has got plans, because he's qualified, And all the way down, don't history ya 6 piece by the tusisikie 2022 because it can mess you up. Sasa angalia mlieka 6 piece Nairobi. Where's the position of the governor in Nairobi? Haya.
Mlipiga 6 piece mkapata Babu Owino, sema ukweli.
Hapana, si tulipiga 6 piece Nairobi. Angalia anyway hata anyway Nairobi I think tulibreak 6 piece hapo kwa women rep.
Guys, it's been an honor going through this whole process. As Elsie just said it, I don't have any other word to add. It's not necessary. 6 piece is not a thing. It's such a...
Just individuals.
Vote for individuals who are going to help and support you and your counties and your sub-counties and your parliamentary areas. Zinaitangwaje? Constituencies. Nilikuwa nimekosa hiyo jina. Parliamentary areas. And this one will be held against me for a while, yani. Yeah. And eventually, at the end of it all, the leader at the top of the seat has to work with all these people.
Yes.
And that's... And the nations around us. And so these are things that we must factor in as we choose our leaders next time. We saw it that it failed last time when we decided to do this whole 6 piece thing. Let's focus on changing that narrative now and making sure that we have development in our country.
Okay.
Yeah.
Goodbye.